Welcome. First of all, for those joining, thank you for taking the time, whether you're watching this live or watching this recorded later. This is one of the events from the Rebuild Local series. I'm joined by a lovely collection of guests for today's event, framed as how we make hybrid DevRel work, how to make hybrid DevRel work. So I'm just going to, before I give a quick introduction to some housekeeping, there is a collection of other events in the website, and this event will be framed within the website and also on YouTube if you want to share it with friends or want to view it again later. So on to the more interesting stuff. So first of all, my name is Neill. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Yard. We're the creators of Rebuild Local. And so I'm going to give a quick bit of context. Some people were asking from the previous one, why are we doing Rebuild Local? So a bit of context on Yard. So very quickly, we're a company that was born during the COVID era when all things were transitioning online. We felt that technical meetup organizers around the world, those that enable the scaffolding that keeps local technical communities alive and together, those people were left a little bit neglected. So we're building a hybrid event and community platform which takes away the burden from them to deal with speaker sponsors and venues and have one tool that manages all offline, online, hybrid and live stream events in one simple tool. So making events basically come together in minutes, not weeks. Our incentive for Rebuild Local was very much, we were speaking to a lot of community organizers around the world individually. And they were having the same problems. They were questioning all things online, from GDPR and recording events through to not having any clue how to approach or deal with hybrid. And so we said, why are we speaking to them separately? Let's speak to them together. And with this event, this is one of our leader series. So in addition to the leader series, we have local events that will be happening in regions, initially across Europe, and then moving further afield. So that's the formalities out of the way. So I'm going to kind of introduce the guests. We have Cheuk from TerminusDB, Martin from Github, and Vicky from Yard, but also a community organizer with a variety of other stuff. Guys, perhaps you'd be open to give a quick, short and sweet intro on like what you do, how, maybe we'll leave the questions for how you got into DevRel for later, but like a little bit of overview of yourself. Cheuk, perhaps you'd be.
Hello, so I'm Cheuk, and I don't know whether you've met me before. I hope we have met in some conferences. So yeah, I've been working in TerminusDB for more than a year now, like almost looking towards the 2 years mark. And so last year was interesting because well, we are doing a pandemic and everything is just like very different. So I work as a developer relations lead. So basically, I'm just in charge of the community, talking to people. I also double as a Python developer. So there's a lot of things going on, very exciting things. So yeah, because TerminusDB, is open source. Our product is open source, so open source is a big focus, and also we are a startup, so lots of times that we are just like a small team supporting each other, so that's why I have so many hats, but it's fun. I love it. I enjoyed it. And I think that's it. We would save some stuff for later.
Cool. Nice. Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Cheuk. Martin?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Martin Woodward. I'm the Director of Developer Relations at GitHub. So, we're kind of focused on DevRel at different companies can mean lots of different things. A lot of time it's like building developer awareness or stuff like that. But with GitHub, we don't really need to build developer awareness. Developers are kind of aware of GitHub. So at DevRel, for us, we're more focused on helping the communities kind of be successful, using the platform and helping them be successful generally, helping developers kind of get the most out of GitHub for their open source work, like Cheuk was saying, but also as well as for their day jobs and for their day-to-day work and things. So I look after DevRel. which for us includes, again, it's different in lots of different companies. We know it, we've got different models at different places. So for us, it includes documentation, developer programs, so things like our influencer programs, our outreach programs, that sort of stuff, and then developer advocacy as well, which when you talk to like regular folks, they tend to think about developer advocacy when they think about DevRel, but that's kind of the top of the iceberg, if you like. That's the bit that people see in the visible part. It's the programs and making sure you've got good documentation, making sure you've got good communities, of both online and offline. That's actually kind of the day-to-day work, and the advocacy side is oftentimes sort of icing on the cake, really. But that's the bit that people most often see. So.
Nice. Yeah, cool. Thank you. And on to Vicky, who's probably going to drop her the fancier part of her business title. Vicky, over to you.
I don't know. I quite like not the community lead, but I like my resident tech mystic with the unicorn title. It's official, it's on my LinkedIn. So, but yeah, I'm not a DevRel. I'm been involved with the tech community, specifically the Irish tech community, for over 10 years. Started from the early days of Python in Ireland, but now I regularly run PyLadies, and that's where I met Cheuk. And EuroPython as well. I didn't do much. Cheuk did a ton of work with the rest of the team. It was amazing. I learned a lot just from watching how they worked on that conference, as everyone doing stuff remotely, and how the tech community pulled together. So yeah, I have many hats on. So from I said PyLadies, so the Python community is a big part of me. So to more language agnostic kind of not-for-profit organizations like Coding Grace, where I run events and workshops, to games, making game jams. So I'm kind of fingers in all different kind of tech and game pies, just to pull. I love bringing community together, how everyone work and share experiences. So yeah. That's me.
Cool. Nice. I love asking community people, so what do you do? It's just like, man, well, I do multiple things. Cool, that's great. So a bit of context as to, obviously we've the title and then we've Vicky. I thought it was actually really interesting from, some companies do a little bit of both, creating communities, then connecting to communities. And what we have is a nice balance here, I think, of DevRel from the startup perspective, DevRel from the larger company perspective, and then somebody, Cheuk, you do also, but then Vicky, someone who does a lot of the nuts and bolts within the local technical community and how DevRel may connect or support. So I find that kind of an interesting balance. So let's get into it. I suppose the first question, and maybe we'll keep for the moment, we can change it up later, keep going, Cheuk and then Martin. How did you and why did you get into developer relations?
Yeah, for me, it's very, very, very funny because I was a data scientist before. I kind of I moved to UK, and then my journey into data science again is a very interesting one. But I think I will spend more time to the later part of my story, which I moved from data science to DevRel. So I am really during the time I was working as a data scientist, I realized that I'm more interested in the tools than the data itself. So I go to a lot of meetups, I go to lots of conferences, and met a lot of people that, including people who created a tool that I use every day, because data scientists, we use a lot of open source tool. And since the Python community is a big part of it, is it's open source. So a lot of developers who build those tools, that they are amazing people that I met in the conference. So I really want to be part of the this cool team of people. So so I also really like the idea of open source. I really like the idea of being in the community. So so that's why I think, is it a way that, because I was spending too much time in conference and preparing talks and all stuff, is there a way that I can make that into my full-time job? And then I do met some other DevRels, developer advocates, developer evangelists, and then they said if this is what you like doing, maybe you should think about that, to switch career. And then so there was a time that I was kind of just finished the last job, and I was looking for jobs. I was thinking, either I would go contracting in data science, so I have more freedom to do what I like doing, or I would I would just start my DevRel career. And I'm so lucky that at that time I actually, found TerminusDB, and then very interestingly, at the same time, that's the time I go to PyCon Ireland, and so I had an interview with them there. So yeah, I started working for Irish startup company. So yeah.
Cool, nice. Makes sense. Yeah. And Martin.
So again, it's an interesting road. When I was at school, I wanted to be a physics teacher, like as a kid. So I wanted to teach physics, but when I was at university, I'd been coding and stuff and doing a bunch of programming like since I was a kid as well, and then and was doing a bunch of that at uni, and found all my physics projects were actually ended up being revolved around computers and computer programming and things. And then when it came to like finding, figuring out what to do next, like do a PGCE, go and do training, do physics teachers. I sold out. I decided to go earn money, and went and got a job on a graduate thing and became a developer. And I had a really interesting kind of, started off in like a graduate recruitment side, because again, I came from the physics background, didn't have comp sci at all. And so,
sorry for interrupt. Yeah. Like I found that physicists make good programmers because our CTO also had the physics background. I also have a physics background. I studied physics at uni.
Well, we kill it at Fortran 77 anyway. You know what I mean? But not so much on the more useful languages. But yeah. So anyway, yeah. So did that, and then like did a job where I was kind of in consulting, so I was in a SI type consultant, and I love that kind of role because it's very broad and you have to go deep quite often into different technological areas, but it allowed you to get a new job basically every 3 to 6 weeks, because you go meet a new customer, learn their language super quick, and then move on. Then went and did like startup stuff and ended up selling that company to Microsoft, and then bought GitHub. So that's kind of how I got to GitHub. Well, the move to DevRel, I went into product. So I was building products, shipping products. And then part of that job, I was always having to go talk to people, talk to customers, talk at conferences, talk to communities. And I learned so much from just hanging out at local communities. When I first started, I did a tour around all of it was with Microsoft at the time. So I did a tour of all like the .NET and Microsoft communities around the whole island of Ireland kind of thing. And then just kept popping out, nipping down. In the old days when it used to take you like, I don't know, about 15 hours to get down to Cork or something like that before all the good roads came in. I did all that stuff and just learned so much and made so many great contacts and friends from the community, but also learned so much which helped me make the product better. And then I was able to take those stories and those anecdotes and use them in stand-ups and make the product better from them. And so I'm a big fan of DevRel being part of engineering, part of product, and that's how it is at GitHub, and helping make the product better by connecting like the things we're building with the teams, and helping the teams being able to talk to developers. Actually talk to people rather than talk to shoes, but also, talk to developers, like what is in it for them? What value does it have for people? Help people understand that. And then conversely, help our communities be successful, help them understand what we've got, keep them up to date with things. And it's amazing the little things you can do, the little bits of value you can create to make people successful, and then they're successful in their careers, and they can come up from me from like, quite a reasonably working class background with no computer science background, and then get a well-paid job in tech and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of the thing that keeps me going every day now, is seeing people coming into tech who are new, and like being able to pick these things up, bringing other communities, helping them be successful, and just doing like what little small things can I do behind the scenes. That's why I think I'm unusual for DevRel. Like I can do the stage stuff, but I enjoy being behind the scenes. And I think, a lot of us people here as community builders, it's the same. You enjoy being behind, supporting, growing, nurturing this next generation of people who are coming up through. So it's a great job. And you get paid for it. It's amazing.
Really interesting on the product side. That's kind of, that's really interesting. You're seeing more, I find you see more, sorry to sabotage just Vicky, you're next, but I find that really interesting. You're seeing a lot more companies adopt, and maybe they don't realize they're adopting, but those kind of open source, if you like, or community structures and strategies from, I think that is derived from a lot of the developer side, and companies are, from a research and a brand perspective, building just like what they consider community around a product that really influences. It's like, for me in the startup world, it's like, I think it's like customer development or research on steroids to inform product, but get closer to customers, and kind of eats up different elements of whether it's product and marketing as well, because you're just interfacing with them. So it's, that's an interesting.
I see it as a natural progression of like agile and DevOps and things like that. You're trying to close these feedback loops, and the best way of closing a feedback loop is by introducing the community into your product development cycles, and then that allows you to iterate more quickly. It allows you to focus on what customers really need, and it is a data point. You know what I mean? Like, you need to be looking at usage as well and things like that. But it's all about closing these feedback loops. But then also, that's what the product team get out of it. But you've got to remember, it's a two-way value. Like, the community has to get value out of this relationship too, and you have to be part of that. But anyway, sorry, I'll shut up. Vicky, it's your
turn. No, I might say that. We should touch on that later. But Vicky, 10 years ago, how did you decide to take off the coder hat and get into all things community?
You don't take off your coder hat, because that is your community. The only reason I'm more of a hobbyist now, I think it's more down to, I'm lucky enough and privileged enough that I can actually work on not-for-profit stuff and be able to do part-time work and contract work in weird roles. There are non-coding roles, like I still focus on community, and I do get paid, which is cool. I'm not DevRel, but I'm doing community work and I'm still getting paid. And it's the last number of years have been like that. So 10 years ago, I've been a developer, finding the people who are, finding this technology called Python was really new. What is it? And then finding other people just as excited. And then realize there's more people out there around Ireland than we thought when we first started the conference here in Ireland. And then and it's and what we thrive on wanting to know is how this whichever technology group you're in, you want to know how that technology is used, not the same old thing over and over again. So it was quite, it was all because there's certain trends, and it's nice to see different trends coming along. Especially technology changes so fast, but you can rest assured, I think things like web frameworks stuck around for a long time. So when you see someone doing something exciting with technology, and then you see other companies kind of saying, look what else we're doing as well, technology, but it's not selling, but more just showing you how cool and how different ways of doing things, and opens your mind a bit more as well. And I think that's the reason why I'm still with the tech community for so long, because I like learning new stuff all the time. And it's also exact same what Martin's saying, and Cheuk thinks the same as well. It's seeing new faces coming along. It's good to see like lots of new people bringing their perspective, lots of curiosity, because when you're in this area for so long, your curiosity kind of fades on the technology because it's not as new, but you look at other shiny stuff, whereas people come in with new perspective because it's completely new to them, and then you go, oh yeah, I forgot about that. That is pretty cool, and you start off a conversation. And for me, from interacting with people, as well as being a mentor or a mentee, or giving people platform to talk about something that they're really excited about, I think that's why, like, I'm still involved. It's just if I'm in a place where I can actually help people to give them that voice, this is the time because over a decade ago, I wouldn't be the one standing in front of everyone talking. I would say that is not me. I have role models saying I wish I was them, standing up there talking and being able to take charge of running meetup groups, or there wasn't anything as a meetup group, it was just seminars and stuff, right? But it was that courage and be able to stand in front of everyone talking tech all the time, and be able to provide that voice to everyone else and say you can do it as well. And I think it's great to see how everything has come along and how the Irish tech scene in general has grown as well.
Cool, nice. Well, thank you for that. I know some of our listeners are probably like the hybrid stuff, but we've laid the foundation now at least. Before we get into like some of the kind of even now and next stuff, is the obvious question for me anyway, from a community developer community's perspective. COVID, and probably this is like a little bit of stereotypical question. Last year, a lot of the changes, DevRel and just technical communities, there was remotes, whether it's Slack or whatever the case may be, and then and of course local enabled by meetups or stuff higher up the value chain at conferences. When that all kind of got paused last year, how have you guys been? The transition from what do we do? We need to make some changes to evolving now to maybe, and that would be a question in there as well. Perhaps there's a different type of strategy now when you're thinking about developer relations, whether it be hybrid. But how was that transition, and where are you now? Perhaps Cheuk?
Yeah, we are doing like more or less what we are doing right now. Like a lot of the because the very interesting time is that we just started to launch our kind of our own meetup in because we want to help with the building the graph database, open source database kind of space for the community. And then we just started like there's a launch in Dublin, there's a launch in London. We have the a big party, amazing talks, and then amazing pizza and beer like normal. But and then like when we are like, oh, that's great, let's book another one in a few months time, and then COVID hit and all the things need to be cancelled. That was quite challenging, and so we just like have to. So I just think like what we can do with this like limitation of people not being able to meet physically. So I just learned from other like event, because I'm also like someone who loves watching gaming stuff. So there's an event I mentioned, it's called Games Done Quick. So they have a live stream event every year. It's actually twice per year that people play games, and then the people they're joining physically, but there's also like an online stream, and it was a big success. And then I was like, oh, maybe we should move towards that like streaming stuff. So so we decided to have more webinar, and then so there's more interaction with people who are joining, and also I decided to do more streaming. So because what else you gonna do at home? So yeah, so that's where we are moving towards. And right now, it's kind of like we are thinking about meeting in person again, because from the experience of the past year, that even though online you have a wider reach of people, you can reach out to, it's not limited by region, right? Because like we are not a big company, we kind of want to have like offices in, let's say, APAC region, or like offices in like even in the US. We don't have a very physical presence yet. So well, doing online, the only things that's stopping you from reaching to people in different regions may be the time zone, but even that you can have recordings and stuff, right? Forums and so yeah. Also, we do another move is to move to Discord. So we have a community on Discord, because now like Slack and Discord kind of like start to move towards each other. They try to like mimic each other's functionality and features, but at the beginning, we moved to Discord because like we like the feature of being able to talk to people over there, and then so we try to build a community there. And right now, but the thing is like it's very wide reach for online, outreaching. But the thing is like people starting to get less and less engaging, because I think we are social being, we are human. We love seeing other people physically. So online still, I think a lot of you will agree with me that it's great, but if it's different from meeting people face to face. So we decided to maybe try out a little bit of physical meetup again, because now I think everybody was just waiting for everybody to start again. So we are always the early adopters, I think, because during the pandemic, we are the very, very first to, okay, what streaming technology we're going to use. So now it's like, okay, so which venue we're going to go to? That is like, the first venue that opened their door to meetups, that we just rush there. So yeah, like we do have that in mind, that, online won't be forever. It will more be a hybrid. So we'll put emphasis on both, kind of get the best of both worlds, I guess. Yeah.
Cool. Martin, how are you thinking about that as well, from when all of that fun times happen through to now, as situations are an established strategy being put in place, or how are you guys thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the way Cheuk phrased it of making the best of both worlds, and I think that's key. Going back though, when it hit, I mean, I remember I was at an event in Paris in February 2019, and I remember like coming back from that event and like seeing people like masking up and things, and seeing all the sort of temperature sensors and stuff. And I'd been in, I think it was like Schiphol or something the week before, and saw, you know, like that's when first sort of temperature sensors was coming. It's like, oh, this is different. This is strange. And then obviously, you know, March hit, and we all kind of went into super lockdown. When we did that, like we're in a very privileged position over here at GitHub, because we are like, you know, no longer a startup. You know, we have our continual revenue streams coming in and things. And for a lot of the communities that are on GitHub, like these are like for PyCon and things like that, these events were a major revenue funding thing for, say, the Python Software Foundation, or like, you know, FOSAsia and places like this, you know, where events that were due to come in around that time frame, where we'd already had commitments with them, and they'd already had commitments as well with their suppliers. And so one of the things we did at that point in time was actually any events that we'd already committed to, we just paid the bill, because we knew that a lot of our people were communities, and they can't afford to lose the money, and we can, you know. So we just paid the bill anyway, because we need these communities to survive longer term. So we just pay those bills, and then sorry, Vicky, I wish you had everybody, but that's what we did. And then we also the money that we had left over, where we had like we'd gotten our in-person event budget kind of thing, or some of our TV budget for the rest of the year. We actually put that into, we worked with like some of the open source different foundations and things, and kind of put it into that to do some of these critical survival pots that existed around that time to cover the shortfall in some of these funding gaps. So that was the initial thing that we did, and we pivoted to video super quick, just like Cheuk did. You know, we knew we needed to go do something. We knew we needed to have something out there, so we decided to pivot to video straight away. It's really interesting. The thing I think a lot of people made the mistake of was trying to treat this new medium as like the in-person thing. And the in-person thing is when you look at the technology and what you do in the background and all the things you do to make it go smoothly, it's inspired by musical theater and kind of some of that kind of stuff and style. Whereas online is more influenced by TV and Netflix, you know.
You can see that. Sorry to interrupt, but like that stands out a country mile to me. You can see that how it was influenced by just an attempted copy paste on a lot of products, right? It was like, well, this is what we do offline. This is what we're going to do online. It's like, wait, no, it's slightly different.
Exactly. And that's what Cheuk was saying as well, how you got to make the best of both worlds. Like, you got to have content that's that's native to the communication mechanism you're in. So that was interesting, and like figuring that out and what did it mean, and rethinking about a bunch of stuff. And I still think we're thinking about that. When we sort of, the interesting thing about I think we've done a decent job as we get in there of like replicating a bunch of these things. I think the area that we've struggled the most, and we can probably is around like giving the community networking opportunities with other people in their communities. That's like one of the biggest reasons why I went to like local Belfast user groups, was just to figure out what was happening in Belfast and figuring out what was happening in the rest of Ireland, so that if ever I get fired, I know what jobs are going and what people are working on, and I know who's interesting I can go talk to. You know, these are tangible value I get from going to an in-person event that I don't get from online. And so trying to figure out that way, I don't think we've tried lots of things we can talk about, but I don't think we've really like solved that problem. And so when that's
one that I was just going to say, I just recently at the start of the year with my partner who's Spanish, moved to Madrid, and I was like, okay, where's the community? Where's my entry point? And I'm like,
and it's because I'm obviously not from. I'm not from the region, you know. I'm a below-in. I came into Northern Ireland, you know, not knowing anybody really apart from my family who I moved here with, and so kind of that's exactly how I got to know local communities and that. And then finally, the hybrid events, I think first of all, the regional ones is where we're going to happen, is like citywide things, and like the smaller side is the in-person side. And I don't know. I don't know if we're ever going to have those big events where we fly 40,000 people from across the world to a conference center in Florida. You know what I mean? Like, they were already starting to feel a bit anachronistic then. And so I'm wondering if what we've done is accelerated a bunch of changes that needed to happen anyway. But I'm probably more gung-ho on that anyway. But I think there is a huge amount of value in these local events, you know, and that's where I think hybrid's going to be. But the thing that's the thing that gave me the best satisfaction from the whole thing is we've seen it be a massive leveler in terms of, like, we see huge uptick in the number of people coming from places like India, from Nigeria, from different parts of the world that previously couldn't have traveled to that event in Florida because it would have been cost prohibitive. We've also seen a massive increase in the gender diversity of our audience, much more balanced, again, because people are able to get to these events and people are hungry to learn. And what we're finding is the people who had it easy before are less keen to get to these online events, but the people who didn't get access to anything are like, yes, sign me up, I'm learning, I want to learn. And so that's
so interesting. Yesterday I had a conversation. We did an event with a woman called Rosa Langhammer, who was head of talent experience at Andela. She was talking about just that. The uptake has been, they can quantifiably see that it's, the audience is much more diverse, and the communities are growing quite rapidly. Now they're outside of Africa now, but the uptake from the existing community in Africa is just like growing really fast, just like shadowing what you said.
But I want to add one thing though. Like I try also outreaching to maybe African communities, but there is a challenge because we run a workshop. We try to run an online workshop targeting African community, but the challenge will be they don't have the stable internet to support that. The infrastructure is really limiting. So I still see that, like, of course, online is making things more accessible to everybody. It's making the ground more even for people, but still, you know, you can still see that, okay, like we are still living in a world that is not very even because, you know, infrastructure can also limit your online access. That, like, you know, that's still a far way to go to make people to be, you know.
I think.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, just on top of what Cheuk was saying about accessibility to technology and stable internet access, I found that as well because I'm on the PSF's, the Python Software Foundation grants work group, and we do get requests for help for running events, not in kind of in places where people really need funding and things that I don't even you realize when I run events here, I wouldn't think of, I need a generator, I need to bus people from certain other places or smaller towns and villages to a central location. And I need to, because at the time, while we do normally as organizers, we just think about sourcing speakers and if it's in person, a venue, or how to get this, that, and the other, but we don't think about all the other things that, as Cheuk pointed out. So yeah, that's just kind of, so that's why it's important to have organizations support people who want to run these community events, and it's not about food or drink. It's not about getting that, you know, paying that speaker. It's not only that. There's a lot more that we don't realize, and we have to be more open-minded about that. There's people need a lot of help in areas we never thought of. Sorry, Martin.
No, it's exactly, and you have to learn like that. But the great thing is about this time, like the one silver lining, you know, about some of the, you know, awful things that are happening is that we're actually able to go figure this out and go, you know, talk to people in different countries in Africa and sort of see, you know, go talk to the speakers and go, okay, what do you need? And like, so we will pre-record a bunch of sessions because we did a meetup yesterday in Africa, and it, like, two of the speakers dropped out the night before because their power had stopped, and you're like, yeah, okay. And so you pre-record a bunch of stuff, you fly people in, you, rather than paying people honorariums, you pay for their internet, you get them an office where they can go record the thing from, and it's just different. But and also making the content available in different channels. You know, Cheuk was talking about like doing Twitch streams and doing some of these sorts of things. Like, you need a blended approach. Like, you want the short form content, you want the TikToks, you want the YouTube shorts, but you also want the 60-minute like equivalent of a breakout session at an in-person conference that's like a detailed tutorial with written up stuff. You know, you want written guidance, and then you want some local events where people can get together and meet what's happening in their community. So yeah, it's I think it's just made it more, the content we have, our palette has got broader because of this. I think it's accelerated it.
Yeah, I can see it's just like more and more hats for us to wear as a developer relations person. Yeah.
It is on the content piece. It is, you know, during COVID, the initiative that I had was Dublin.ai, which is basically dead overnight, right? Because I said, like, it's just not the same. Those tools online to enable like breakout rooms and speak. Wait, no, this is now a content business. Like if it was a business. So thinking about that content and the how to distribute it and chop it up and make it available and digestible, that makes sense.
Can I just jump in there with
sure.
Just on top of the whole hybrid and all the technologies and the challenges that people come across when suddenly your in-person event is now not an in-person event anymore, and then you go, what's next? So that happened. So I forgot to tell people initially that I'm also was a maker advocate for Double Maker. And as a maker festival, that is an in-person event. You need to be there to see the 3D printers going, smell the stuff that are being laser cut in that wood, or pull at wires of people's projects. You shouldn't be doing that, but I'm sure kids love doing that as well as adults. But it's an in-person experience, and how do you do that in a virtual world? You know, and so like we've all seen all the different big conferences with their big main stage and then the breakouts, and then if you're brave, go into those lounge areas where you dropped in with a stranger for 2 minutes. I'm not personally a fan of those, but for Double Maker, what we did, we used something called GatherTown. So we wanted to like try to make it fun because it's in a park. So we normally have it in a park in tents in summertime. So we said, why not recreate that? And as it's not the same, we know that. It's a lot of work to put all the digital assets there to create people's booths and show their demos and get people to make their videos and be there in person. But people can wander around, and as they meet each other, conversation starts. So that was the whole kind of idea. Of course, the feedback was some people said it was great to see other makers. There was a goal for them to actually make something to appear and talk to people. Then you have the other extreme saying, I really hate this online thing. It doesn't work. So I suppose it's like Marmite. People love and people don't. And it's also unknown for people who are just consuming content, digital content. If you're telling them to participate, to create digital content, that's a whole different thing altogether. And how do you support that? Especially when people are running events, people may not have all the equipment or understand, do I need to buy lots of expensive stuff or just have the stuff that's there? How do you actually, you know, how do you do live stream? How do you start from that? So for me, like, it was a learning experience. We tried to recreate an in-person experience through GatherTown, but we did it like a newsroom. So we've just figured out, let's, like, here, we're talking all together, and we had 2 roving reporters that drop in every so often. I even had a weather report, you know, that kind of thing. For 3 hours straight, we're doing live stream. So it was an experience. It was hectic. But it was certainly not the same. I think everyone has to agree it is just not the same, like, especially in that particular context, but definitely in the tech communities. I'm just seeing a lot of meetups haven't been running their monthly meetups for quite a while for the past year. And it was kind of rather sad. Some of them actually stepped back because, you know, most of them are paying fees to host these things, you know, out of their own pockets as well. So it is a big challenge, and it is not the same as in person. So I think a lot of us are looking forward to even some sort of hybrid, but how do we do that is another question.
Yeah. So also, I want to add one thing, like even people are moving. For example, I live in London, so I can say for London that like, a lot of people I know, they're moving away from London because work doesn't rely on you like physically being close to the office anymore. So will meetup like will the regulars come back? You know, that's another question. Maybe they can't because they live further away now. So yeah.
That's another point that actually links to Vicky's and something that I took actually from Martin's original point. So they're all linked to me, and I've kind of a frame question on this. What I would frame as experiences. Right, so something Martin mentioned was on these large conferences, and you know, you sign up to a large conference because it looks great, and then you don't see half the speakers because it's too big. then, will, as you just mentioned, Cheuk, and what you were talking about, Vicky, with Maker and how you enable that experience. What do you guys think of? I have an opinion on this of like, if things are online or hybrid, then they can be digestible live, or if it's pre-recorded by anyone. There's no reason why, if I'm running an event about machine learning in Dublin, Copenhagen, or New York, should probably see that. But the offline experience, the offline part of hybrid, how are you guys thinking about that? My kind of take on it is that if it's available and 200 people are going to watch it offline, then there's a great opportunity, if it's from DevRel perspective, perhaps to have a higher quality, smaller roomed experience for the offline part, which is my opinion. But how are you guys thinking of the experience for offline and the with that online mix?
I think I would say that like for EuroPython this year, well, it's the second year we do it online, but I think at the earlier this year we was thinking about like if the situation is better for the pandemic, then maybe we could have like kind of like a nooked kind of structure that people can host their own small watch party themselves. So kind of like breaking down from like, so we are not expect people to fly to a city together, and 1,000 people together is like something that seems like in the history right now. So that's why we are thinking, but people do miss seeing people. So we kind of like, maybe if someone can organize their local thing, we could give them some support or something. But it didn't happen because of a lot of different factors, and during summer is still not very safe to meet for a lot of countries. So but this will be something that we also will consider next year if we kind of run a hybrid. So because like hybrid is something that we go for, but it's not, there's no definition for hybrid yet, right? There's no like, we don't know yet. We are just like start thinking that things were going to be open. So hybrid is like a ground that, just organizers going to define it themselves, right? Like how hybrid, like what is hybrid, right?
I think everyone's waiting for a reference, right? Everyone's waiting for a reference.
I think on top of what Cheuk was saying about these these viewing parties, is to bring the opportunities of, say, when people go back to the offices, or that companies can actually do these either private or public viewing. So because they used to host meetups, might be a chance for them to open up their office and have these use their space again to have these events. Or there might be co-sharing spaces. There's hubs all up, because now remote, there's even more hubs in Ireland anyway. Definitely there's more hubs around Ireland, and people can go there. So it's not just viewing party in your house, you can do that as well. So it's a chance and opportunities for other organizations to get involved, to bring the community together in their local areas, now that people are working from home a lot, or remote working a lot more.
I think it makes a sense. There's an opportunity perhaps to actually frame what it is, offline and online, and optimize for online being content driven, and offline a small audience where the experience can be better. Because if you're in a room with 1,000 people, it probably has some pros to it, right? But also, like, anyway, for me, that's personal, and maybe other people have totally different opinions. I like the smaller stuff. I like the I don't know, 30 to 50 people room where I might have a chance of actually engaging with everyone. So like, and that would be my opinion on the optimizing for the experience and the connectivity of people to enable conversations and learning, and the content's online, right?
Yeah, I think you need to optimize for the venue all the time and for the audiences. And so I have a bunch of like ideas in mind of what failure is, as well as what success is, kind of thing. And the watch party thing, like I was around in Microsoft when they did the Windows 7 launch parties, and they sent out launch party kits, and that was like total cringe, and so I don't want to go there. It just didn't work, because there wasn't a point for the people to get together locally. Like, what's the point? Equally, in the hybrid scenario, I'm seeing some events where they're doing hybrid, where it's like, oh yeah, it's a conference, but hey, you can come in via Zoom if you want to, kind of thing. That again is failure, because you're not optimizing for the online experience there. What you should be doing is optimizing short content that's like consumable, with a live component that's like almost like daytime magazine format TV, where you're pulling in different content, and then you've got lots of on-demand or long tail to go catch afterwards, kind of thing. That to me is a successful online event. And so this hybrid event, if you're coming into that, then you get a worse experience of the people there. That just sucks. I've been in conference calls where I'm the only one, not in the room, and it's just not a great experience. So for me, the ideal hybrid experience, I actually did an event for the past few years, which we couldn't do last year, obviously, but Global DevOps Bootcamp, if you go, it's a community event, again, if you want to go have a look at it. But that to me is like perfectly set up for a hybrid scenario, because they have like a global, it's almost like a hackathon-y type, but it's also got some of the thing of like a maker's fair where you need the in-person element, because you come together and you work on stuff in groups, but the stuff you're working on has actually been defined globally, and then you're competing against teams asynchronously, but globally. And then we had like a keynote which we broadcast in, which is the launch party element, and that's like you only got to watch the keynote by being in the room, and then we made it available a week later online, so you got the kind of, so we're trying to kind of mix these things, but then the point of being there was there was a point of being in room. However, there was content to consume if you didn't get to be in room. There's a totally different set of content that gives you a different set of learnings, So there's value in it if you can't get to a local city as well.
Yeah,
Nice.
There's something that we run before the pandemic. Actually, it's called global sprints. That basically, like there are different organizers scattered around the world to organize their own sprint, but at the end, like it's contribute towards the same project, and then we have the statistic of like when pull requests come in, and then we see which region had the most pull requests and stuff.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, that's an interesting one. We've been geeking out in that as well, on like the in-person experience. So off the back of kind of that, but like something we touched on really, really briefly was the increase. And I just saw like a pattern. This is something we were speaking internally, something that came up in the conversation yesterday with Rosa, and something that you guys mentioned here today was the increase in a more diverse audience and attendees. We haven't cracked this yet, but we've been talking a lot, and I've been thinking about it. For us, and there's a question in here. I'll lay the foundation. One of the things that we've been looking at is, for me, it kind of feels like some community has kept going, developer relations has kept going, and there's been a smooth enough transition. But it also feels like almost a blank canvas for community and trying to figure stuff out. For something that has been a priority and a topic for quite a number of years, diversity, inclusivity, supporting things for social good. One of the things that we were talking about internally was, do we frame KPIs? Is there a possibility from an organizer perspective, or should it not be on the organizer? It should be on the region if things are offline, in how do we kind of influence or support some kind of cause to tick that D&I and that social for good box. What do you guys think of the possibility to improve diversity and inclusivity? You think it's just happening as a byproduct of where we are, or is there any kind of thinking around how to improve that?
Well, I think that's what diversity and inclusivity is like. It's a thing that we have to put effort in, no matter like online or offline. Because for me, inclusivity and diversity is to provide a safe space and a welcoming space for minority, like people who are defined as minority. It's just because there are things that we take for granted, like, for example, being like gather with friends, going to a place to social, like you feel like, oh, it's natural, right? But for some people, it's not, because of a lot of reasons, maybe of people being shy, or because of their identity, they feel that they are, they worry that they will be an outcast in the group or something like that. So we have to make sure that this is not what people will feel when they go to a new community. Even if it's online, we still have code of conduct that's upheld. All the things that apply to conference also apply to online, but maybe we have to make some adjustment of like what, the term would be, because, online is another world. So like maybe like some definition of what people, should behave would be, maybe the wordings need to change a little bit and stuff, but still, we still need to have a channel for people to report if things happened. There still need to be, people need to be reminded to be nice to people. Sometimes people forget when they are online that there's other, the persona online is also a person, so you have to treat them nicely. There's also, like I said, infrastructure could be a problem for different regions. We have to also bear that in mind, and we can't expect everybody to have a stable internet. So it's still a thing that we have to put effort in, I do believe. And it's just that the emphasis may change a little bit, like from this area to the other area, but still something we need to really be aware. Yeah.
Yeah, 100% agree. You need to put someone, for corporately, we definitely need to set like targets and goals and things about our attendee diversity, because if we don't, that's how we encourage effort to happen, and you do need to put effort in. And then there's lots of stuff you can do. Is
that Martin? Sorry to cut across you. Is that internally for for GitHub related communities and events, and do you put that on your organizers organizing, or are you talking about like if you're working with a community that isn't GitHub, you just make sure
kind of both, but in different ways. Okay. So like for internally, yes, definitely for our first party events and things, then yes, we have this explicit goals that we have. For communities that we work with, and there's a couple of different ways of signaling these things, but basically we deliberately make an effort to help in the communities that are helping, we're doing good work in this space and are obviously making an effort in this space. And we don't go to places that aren't making an effort, and we deliberately do not attend. So if you don't have a code of conduct, if you have a panel discussion that's all male, I will not attend, and nobody at GitHub will attend your conference because of that. Yeah. We're very clear with people when they're wanting us to come and attend. These are our kind of restrictions. These are the things we need before we will sponsor, before we will come to your event.
Makes sense.
You kind of do some of that, but then you can also signal a bunch of things as well to communities when you're getting involved in communities. So we have our STARS program, which is our ambassador MVP, influencer program kind of thing at GitHub. When we welcome the stars in, we send them a welcome pack, and we welcome them, and they're all part of the community. They get a bunch of perks and all this sort of stuff. In that pack, one of the things we very deliberately send is earrings, because if you're a woman or if you person identify as a woman and you're going into conferences, you're so used to getting unisex t-shirts or whatever. We very deliberately give earrings to people because that not only welcomes people, oh, that's good, that's cool, and sometimes women are identifying and go, oh, I wonder if they sent that to me specifically or something like that. But then for the dudes that are coming in, it also says to them, we're welcoming women into our program, or we're welcoming people who wear earrings into our program. Yeah. If you don't wear earrings, do you know that we're welcoming people into our program who do? You please be welcoming. And then we do lots of other things as well, like in terms of reaching out. We'll deliberately go reach out to people who we see being welcoming, who we see being inclusive, who we see working at this, and thank them one-to-one and say, give them you want the carrot as well as kind of the stick, and the stick is a code of conduct and booting them out. You want to also recognize and say thank you to people who are doing a good job, in my opinion. But again, that's from my very privileged position,
Yeah. Also, the pronoun stickers now become you can add pronouns to your, on Discord. We actually have a pronoun board or something that can help you to add a pronoun to your name or something like that to encourage people to do that. So
the pronoun thing is fascinating in terms of when you're building communities as well, because you need to be able to. We need to build communities that also protect people from local regions where having a they pronoun or whatever might actually hurt them, but they might want to identify differently when they're in different regions. And so it's an interesting one for us that we've actually been investing a lot in recently. So hopefully we'll get
interesting. So guys, we have 5 minutes. This has flown. I have 2 questions. No idea how I'm going to answer them in 5 minutes based on that so far. So I'll put this out here and feel free to whoever would like to pick it up. The topic of identifying, supporting, and nurturing relationships. So with actual brand advocates, fans, champions, or people who are using your tech or tools or champion or talking about them, even doing Twitch or videos about them. How do you think about that during this era and all things hybrid?
I think Twitch is like all the things that we have talked before, that is very outreaching, but of course it would be part of the hybrid structure that we won't overlook the power of it, but still there's things that it can't cover, so it's kind of we need to we will incorporate that, but it's not everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Vicky, did you have anything on that before I jump in?
You jump in. It's fine.
So we do that very deliberate listening in place, where we do stuff, and we have kind of like we actually have a funnel that we bring people through, or it's more like the orbit model kind of way of looking at the world. But and then identify people like, they say, Twitch streamers, the online traffic, the YouTube traffic there, and it's different people have different channels. Like you might find somebody who's absolutely massive on TikTok and who has 5 followers on Twitter, and it's fascinating. And so you kind of have to have a broad spread, and then you also need to understand that part of that as well is like recognizing people's offline community contributions and making sure we have plenty of offline community leaders in there as well, and that you have a broad mix. You don't have too many of one type and too many of another. You need to have a mix of those, so then you can get as we've already been saying, the healthiest ecosystems in nature are the most diverse. And so when you're trying to build your listening communities and your communities of people, they need to be diverse as well. Diverse not just in representation and different, whatever backgrounds they're from and things like that, but also diverse in terms of what their audiences are, how they communicate with their audiences and things, because that's how you have a healthy listening system and a healthy relationship with your community if it's spread out.
Makes sense. And perhaps starting with Vicky, I've one question left, guys. We 3 minutes, we're all right. If everyone's happy, maybe we'll go 1 minute over. Totally up to you guys, but just the one question. So perhaps starting with Vicky, Wishlist. If you guys prioritization of problems to solve and thinking about working with communities on, offline, hybrid, do you have the magic wish list?
Magic wish list.
Yeah, like a wish list in terms of problems to solve, in terms of the priorities, like maybe your top 3.
Being able to find the speakers, not the superstar ones, but find all the interest, be able to find and encourage those, especially the shy speakers, to come out and talk about, why they're using the technology, and if they really want to talk about something, why are they not coming forward? How can I, as part of the community, help you? I know there's very few initiatives out there, that help people to help with their call for proposal. If they have an idea, help them create a call for proposal, right through to talk about building their abstract together and seeing if it's a good idea, sounding those ideas, and then submitting it. Submitting, the final step. You can write the abstract, but if you don't submit it, it's never going to happen. So and then also not just submitting and then full stop, not supporting them, being able to help them with their talk and give feedback. And the dreaded Q&A for techie speakers is not just it's everyone. I think it's only a very small minority are happy with Q&A afterwards, but a lot of people dread it. And how do you actually help them to manage that as well? So this is not just in person, it'll be like online as well, and people start asking questions, and especially if you're going and then there's like dead 2-second silence, like how do you manage, how do you avoid that and manage yourself? And it's not good enough to say, it's just practice. You need the support there, because a lot of people say, we'll practice and you'll be fine, and it's not just that. You need the support. And I think for me, my is finding a way to find those people to talk all the stuff they're really excited about, and be confident to do it. It's okay to be scared as well. We're all scared. Like even before this live stream, I was sweating buckets. Every single live stream before I go on, everything I do, everyone gets a bit kind of just before we go on stage. That's the same thing, before you talk. It's natural. So it's okay. Tell people it's okay, and it's okay to fail as well. So but the support needs to be there, and tell us, the community, how we can do to help you as well, and how we can do better. If we're not doing something right, we need to be called out on it as well, and we will take it on chin, especially a lot of the leaders and organizers of these groups. We're in this community because we love the community, and we want you to love it as well.
Nice.
That's the one
thing. Perhaps Martin, and then Cheuk.
Yeah, I'll so super quickly. I think remember you need to create value for everybody in the community. So not just you, but what are your community? What value are they getting out of it? And you need to think about like, how am I creating value for everybody to be part of this? You then need to create a sense of belonging, because people come to communities for that value, but they stay for the intangibles and they get committed and they start investing in it because of these intangibles. So how are you creating that sense of belonging? How are you building people up? How are you helping people to become more successful? Don't try and kind of replicate something in a different medium that it's not suitable for. Be medium specific. So do longer form content on Twitch, do short form content on TikTok, do those things, do the hybrid events. Why are you in person? What's the point of being there? If it's for watching a video on a screen, there's no point. Like what's the reason for being there? And then finally, like the stuff we've been doing this year, it's not going away. Video is here to stay. You need to get good at it, and you need to build up those muscles as well. However, we are going to have it. It doesn't mean that in-person is gone. These two things are going to live together for forever now. And so get good at the video, get good at that side, be native, but also as it starts to get safe to have in person, what makes sense for being in person and what can you do safely in person as well in smaller groups and things.
Thank you. You're great. Cheuk.
Yeah, I think both Vicky and Martin sum up like almost everything. I would just patch it with another factor that I think is important is fun and enjoyment. So nobody wants to be in a community that's not fun and they enjoyed it. So just to make it fun, make it enjoyable. Yeah,
that's like a perfect way to end. Great. That was that has flown and was really interesting. I'm going to digest. I'm going to kind of review this immediately after. Lots of interesting nuggets there, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time. Just to finish up, for those watching or that will be watching, this will be on our YouTube page. All information can also be found. Eventually, we will also upload it to our website, rebuild-local.yard.live. And that's where you'll find more leader sessions and then the upcoming local sessions that you can attend if it's in your region, or if you want to create a Rebuild Local for your local technical community, you can apply online. Guys, that's it. I'll wrap up. Thank you so much for the time. Thanks for joining us, and speak to you all soon. Cheers, guys. Awesome. I'm going to stop the live stream now. Guys, thanks so much.